hearing. We have 3 cases on the agenda, but before we get started, we are going to have a commercial briefing from the staff. So Derek, if you want to go ahead and start.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to the board and everybody else participating this morning. My name is Derek DeBay. I'm the Director of Real Estate Assessments for Arlington County. This morning, we're going to be providing a commercial briefing for informational purposes to give some insight on the changes that occurred year over year from 2023 to 2024 on commercial properties. So I'm going to be introducing the commercial team this morning and turn things over to Deidre, who is the commercial supervisor. They're going to run through a presentation and walk you through a summary of, again, the changes that occurred with all of our different commercial property sectors. So with that, I'll turn it over to our commercial supervisor, Deidre Kelly.
Good morning, board. It's good to see you guys this year. If you give me a moment, I'm going to present my screen, make sure we don't have any technical issues. Okay. Well, first I want to just again say hello to everyone, and I want to give a brief introduction for my team. I'm Deidre Kelly. I am the commercial supervisor. Chris Chikas, who is the senior, you will see him presenting and present at most hearings this year. We have Annetta Shuttlesworth, Lori Roskin, and Rob Peralta. Each of these are subject matter experts of their respective fields, and they will be representing the department and presenting cases this year. I will start off the presentation, then hand it over to Chris. Again, these are the commercial property types that you all are familiar with. Again, apartments, hotels, general commercial, and commercial office. This is the team that I just presented. And here's a summary of the changes to the commercial tax base this year. For the total commercial tax base, office, hotels, multifamily, general commercial, and new construction increased 1.6% from $40.5 billion to $41.1 billion in 2024. The commercial tax base represents 45% of the total 2024 real estate tax base. Multifamily residential assessments, including new construction, grew 9.5% in assessed value compared to last year. Apartments represent 53.3% of the commercial real estate tax base and 24% of the total real estate tax base. There are changes, including new construction, represented 21.9%, 21.9 billion compared to 20 billion in 2023. Office property assessments, including new construction, experienced an overall decrease of 8.5% in assessed value. And new construction in office contributed 359.1 million, or 2.5% of the 2024 value. Hotels experienced an overall increase in assessed value of 1.7% compared to 2023, and with new construction adding 151 million, or 8.2% in value. General commercial properties, including new construction, experienced a negative 2.4% in assessed value compared to 2023. Their total 2024 assessed value was 4.5 billion, and this represented 11% of the commercial real estate tax base, or 4.9% of the total real estate tax base. Each year, the department conducts an income and expense analysis. This year, for the 2024 guidelines were developed using the income expense information from 2022. Now, this income expense information included operating information such as rental income, vacancy, concessions, operating expenses, and parking income. For various reasons, certain I&E information was excluded from the analysis, and these reasons include partial year expenses or income that was reported in the partial year, building experience, high vacancy or total vacancy, or vacant for renovation. Expenses appear to be to include non-operating expenses such as capital improvements, tenant paid expenses directly, or total expenses, whether high or low, or extreme outliers based on what was typically seen in that analysis. the cap rates or the capitalization rates. This is an area that we do look at market analysis. We look at the sales that occur, arm's length sales that occur in the market. The net operating income reported on I&E statements submitted by the property owners and commercial building owners in the county is what's reviewed and analyzed to determine the market capitalization rates each year. In addition, surveys and reports of capitalization rates from commercial real estate publications are reviewed to support the analysis. The indicated capitalization rates are determined from each market sale by dividing the net operating income less real estate taxes by the sales price. Again, we know that you're familiar with this information. We want to make sure that this is something that is was just something that we provided in as we go into the guidelines for this year. The properties that sold and their indicated capitalization rates were analyzed to determine the capitalization rate for each commercial property type for this year. And the appropriate effective tax rate is added and loaded to the appropriate base capitalization rate for each commercial property. I am going to turn this over to Chris. Chris is our subject matter expert for apartments as well as hotels, and he will take it over for the market apartment guideline changes for this year.
Thank you, Deidre. Good morning, board members. So again, looking at what's changed over year, we did see some slight increases to apartment rents. Of course, those newer, larger units saw the larger increases. Vacancy was largely flat. We noted year over year regarding to absorption and whatnot, that the vacancy stayed fairly flat. In regards to rent loss and rent concessions, we saw that same. Operating expenses, much like rents, did trickle up a bit. And again, we saw those larger increases in our older properties, which tends to make sense. Cap rates, we did increase 10 basis points across all property types, garden, mid-rise and high-rise, metro and non-metro.
Hello, good morning, everyone. There were 57 committed affordable properties included in our 2024 analysis, and over 50% of them were built prior to 1990s. In the fiscal year 2023, Arlington County added 174 more committed affordable units, bringing the total number to 11,213. The demand for the committed affordable units exceeds the supply, and the county's goal is to have 17.7% of the housing stock composed of affordable units by 2024. To achieve this goal, additional 22,000 units need to be added. During our analysis, we could see that the monthly rents went up. We also focused on trend in operating expenses and vacancies and collections. We noticed the slight increases in rent loss and legal costs associated with evictions as the moratorium on rents was lifted at the end of 2022. Due to these findings, we have increased expenses per unit. We applied higher vacancy and concessions, and we also increased our cap rates by 10 basis points. Properties that include both committed affordable units and market units were valued using both market and affordable guidelines. Thank you.
When we talk about some of the apartment notes that occurred in last year, we noted there were 5 recorded sales, obviously down a bit from previous years. In fact, we've already noted that there were 6 sales so far in 2024, so a bit of a slowdown last year. We did note that the county board has been steadily approving multifamily projects, both mixed use and standalone multifamily. 7 were approved in 2023, up from 3 in 2022 and 5 in 2021. 2 multifamily projects have already been approved this year. 8 new multifamily projects came online. So again, when we talk about absorption and the health of the market, we can see that's coming to fruition here. There's going to be another 5 that will be delivered at various points in either this year or early 2025 to match those 8 that came on January 1st.
Thank you, Chris. And Lori Roskin will take over for General Commercial.
Good morning, board members. First of all, with General Commercial, as Deidre stated earlier, overall, it had decreased by 2.4%. Now, despite that decrease, we saw a number of rents that increased 2 to 3% year over year. There were a few, just a few that showed a small correction due to trailing years of 2020, 2021. As for the vacancy, the most notable thing was that it did increase roughly 2% across the board. However, there were some that remained unchanged, but it was primarily retail and restaurant that had increased about 2%, but mostly other property types stayed flat for vacancy. And this is just a reminder that our vacancy incorporates both financial vacancy, rent loss, and concessions together. So when you see that singular number that we use, it incorporates all of those factors together. For expenses, they basically remained the same. However, they did show a bit of an increase, and that's just because of it's affected by the vacancy. Once again, for general commercial, when we apply the stabilized vacancy and the expenses, it's applied only to the base rent. It's not applied to pass-throughs or miscellaneous incomes of that nature. And can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. And also, I wanted to make note that the capitalization rates increased 15 basis points. And this was for, once again, for the majority of the property types, which were retail, restaurants, the neighborhood centers, commercial condos, and then the small office, those increased 50 basis points across the board. There were a limited number of recorded sales for 2023, but they do continue to support this increase that I just noted to you. And last, for the new construction, as you noted, if you recall, for 2023, the construction costs pretty much soared. And this year, we had a bit of a correction, a little bit of a decrease in those construction costs. They still remain high, but they've come down a little from last year's, or they've come down from the 2022 third quarter. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Rob Peralta will walk through the commercial office changes for this year. Rob?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. The rents in the office sector, we did see changes. It was mixed across all submarkets, but we believe that the ranges, the bottom end of the ranges increased, and therefore kind of increased the averages in all submarkets. Didn't necessarily show that the rents were increasing, but those ranges was the samples that we received in the INEs, and the averages were slightly higher. When looking at vacancy, we do recognize that the current state of the market for office, and so we made notable changes in vacancy and capitalization rates. And for vacancy, we increased each category by 3%, increasing the threshold from 25 to 28%. Parking, we did see an increase from last year to this year. 900 from last year increased to 1,200 for this year, 2024. Expenses, we did see that the average expenses across the county was $7.60. Cap rates, as I mentioned earlier, we increased rates 50 to 150 basis points across all office properties, depending on the age of the property. You'll see that the older properties got 150 basis points jump increase, whereas the newer properties got 50 basis points increased. a few of the overlying points that we have is just, again, the office vacancy remained high, which resulted in guideline vacancy increases across the board. We had about 5 sales, office sales, but with the majority of those selling for redevelopment. And we did see that there's a continued flight to quality as tenants move towards sign new leases in newer buildings or newly renovated buildings as well. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. All right, so I want to turn this back over to Chris. Chris, for hotels.
Absolutely. Thank you, Deidre. So again, the biggest change we saw by far was the 25 basis point drop. And this is in reply to the last number of years of successful return to normalcy, if you will, in the hospitality market. Those board members have been with us for the last couple of years may remember that we did a 50 plus basis point increase in 2020 to reflect what was going on in the hospitality market. Absolutely cratered after COVID-19 impact far more significantly in that sector than any other. We have seen, thank you, Deidre, as you note there, is the STR is the Smith Travel Research. They tend to be the industry leader as far as metrics of success. We've talked ad nauseum about 2019's being the historic year for all of those metrics of success, occupancy, average daily rate, and revenue per available room. We would note that even though the county has actually lost, I believe it was 4 or 5 hotels in this 5-year period, we are back within 4% of 2019's historic occupancy level, and in fact surpassed both the average daily rate and revenue per available room. Again, as that notes, all indications, strong rebound of hospitality. Well, one sale hotel transaction in 2023 that echoed what occurred in 2022, 2 of them occurred in 2021. For those familiar with the Roslyn rebuilding effort, if you will, there is that new hotel that's coming online at the end of this year, Hilton at the Keys, if not at the end of this year, early 2025. And the Arlington County Board approved another property for redevelopment into a new hotel at the Silver Diner site. So again, strong indication of a return to normalcy. When we talk about land, again, the board members who have been here for years will see that the things are very much the same that they've been for a number of years. We did not change land. Apartments, high-rise, mid-rise is still going to be 86,000 unit for those mid-rise and high-rise that are within a half-mile walk of metro, what we term metro corridors. Those within more than a half-mile walk, that were non-metro corridors, will still be at 60,000 a unit. The committed affordable high-rise, mid-rise projects that are 100% committed affordable will also be 60,000 unit, and that will be regardless of proximity to metro. Garden land has continued to be valued on a per square foot basis. That will vary, of course, per location and that subsequent zoning. Office, familiar corridors to apartments, and that there's metro, non-metro. The metro corridors will be at $65 a square foot, non-metro at $55. Hotels have remained at $50,000 a key. And again, general commercials treated, if you will, similarly to garden land, in that the general commercial properties are going to be valued on a per square foot basis, and it will vary per location and that subsequent zoning. Site plans. This has become more and more prevalent over the last couple of years. There's the idea of what developers are allowed to do, owners. There's by right, which of course they're able to do just what's inherent in the footprint of the plan and the GLUP, the zoning in which it sits. Anything outside of by right would be termed a special exception. And for the purposes of this presentation, we're talking about most common is 4.1 site plan. There's form-based code. There's unified commercial mixed use, and of course, use permits. All of these need board approval. They go through various numbers of steps, a long-range review committee, site plan review committee, and then ultimately the county board. Once that county board approves the density, we then will calculate the applicable land rate that's in effect as of that January 1st and calculate the value for that subsequent January 1st. There will be occasions where an interim improvement value will be added. It's essentially de minimis value of $1,000 or so, just to show that there is no real improvement to the land that's being valued. Special exceptions, as we note, have a predetermined expiration date that's built in regarding the ground to grade to foot permit. But at the same point, we have noted that the Virginia General Assembly has recently passed what they call the extension of approvals to address the COVID-19 pandemic. This was most recently approved in March of last year, and that extended valid site plan approvals through July 1st, 2025. And we would like to note that property owners have the ability to request that their site plan special exception approvals be rescinded by the county board. And in fact, we noted that an owner successfully did that just last month.
Or if you could talk about the mall updates.
Sure. Excuse me. Sure. This is actually very quick. Basically, we increased the cap rates across the board from 30 to 35%. I'm sorry, 30 to 35 basis points for all the properties that you see noted below here. And that's pretty much it.
Okay. Thank you, Lori. Well, that concludes the presentation. I do open the floor for questions from the board if they had any questions about about the presentation or questions about upcoming appeals and things of that nature.
Okay.
Do any board members have questions? I can't see all of them. Can we take the, if the presentation is over?
Sure,
take that
absolutely.
Mary, this is Barnes. I have a quick question if I could.
Okay. Mr. Lawson? go ahead.
I guess this is for Chris. Chris, the county board, you say, just null and voided a site plan approval. How about reverting to prior zoning? Are they doing that as well, or do you know?
I do not know.
Okay,
I believe
thank
that's
you.
what the use permit was requesting, but I do not know.
Yeah, gotcha.
Any other questions? Ken, Mr. Metzger?
Oh, good. You can see me. Okay. Two questions. First, are we going to get, unless I've missed it, it's already out there, the guidelines for all these various forms? Are you going to be sending it out, or have you when I missed it? Which one?
The departmental guidelines. Yes, we can provide the board with the departmental guidelines. They are available online, but we'll make sure that you guys get a copy via email.
Grand. Yeah, that's great. Second question to Chris. It was noted, and maybe it's to Deidre, whichever. It was noted that there's the office market in particular, it continues to be even weaker than it's been. And it's reflected in a sizable increase in the capitalization rate. But yet the FAR, the value per FAR foot for proposed soon to be completed office buildings is unchanged. What's the thinking behind that?
Well, that's really more of a Rob and me question, but there was no change to land across the board this year. We have to have sales to generate those studies. But the land was reviewed in addition to the income and expense information publications to make sure that the total value is correct. So we will continue to look at the land rates in this coming year, but there was no adjustment to the land for this year.
No, I understand that, but were there any sales of office buildings such that you could impute some kind of land value this year?
There were sales that were mainly due to redevelopment, but these were also later in the year. And we have to have some time to do that, to look at that as far as a land study. That in addition to the complexity of the office market last year was a bit difficult to do both in one year. So that will take more than one cycle to actually look at. So that's why we have to maybe extend that into the next year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I don't believe there are any more. Derek, do you have anything that you want to add?
No, just to reiterate that the guidelines are available online for other participants that are listening in, and we're happy to provide those or answer any follow-up questions that you guys might have. It's a lot of information, but we're always available and remain available to answer those questions. So,
Okay, great. All right,
Thank you all.
Okay, that completes that portion, so we'll have everybody but Miss Shuttlesworth. You can keep your camera on, but everybody else can turn their camera off. There's a guest named Tom. If you could turn your camera off, please. Thank you. And then we have Miss Borman.
Yes, good morning. Jordan Harmon, so I will turn my camera off as well. Thank you.
Okay. All right, then moving to the cases on the agenda. For the record, just to show, there are 6 members present from the board. Mr. Hoffman is absent today. So the first case we'll look at is RPC 35005023 at 901 15th Street South. Mr. Harmon, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. Good morning. It's great to see everyone again. I trust everyone's been well over this break. I'm excited to kick off another year, and this first case this morning, we have a great one to discuss. This is the Enstrada Pentagon City. It is a 325-unit apartment building built in 2002. Now, for this property, you can see that the DREA revision column does adhere to Virginia law by imputing an NOI that is very close to the property's actual income and expenses, which is exactly how the law should be applied and how we routinely argue that the law should be applied. So for that, I thank the county. Now, since the county's assessment does hew very closely to the property's actual NOI in accordance with law, that means the only issue on appeal is the cap rate. The county uses a cap rate that is 10 basis points higher than the 2023 cap rate. I'm going to present evidence that proves at a minimum that multifamily cap rates need to be increased 30 basis points over the 2023 levels. We have not seen any evidence nor been provided any support from the county that supports a 10 basis point increase. The county has also not provided any response to the cap rate issue in their written case for this property. So I assume they're going to rely on the commercial guidebook. Unfortunately, the guidebook just does not provide any support for a 10 basis point increase. There's one sale comp in the guidebook and there's surveys in the guidebooks that's referenced, and both of those sources support a higher cap rate. Now, for cap rates, unlike NOI, there is not a state statute that tells us exactly what to use. Rather, state law defers to generally accepted appraisal practice. So, how does generally accepted appraisal practice tell us to determine cap rates? Well, the Appraisal Institute's 15th edition of the Appraisal of Real Estate states capitalization rates can be determined by comparable sales, band of investment analysis, and surveys. We analyze these methods to determine that a 30 basis point increase at a minimum is warranted. I hope everyone received a copy of the Arlington County Board Book that we did provide, as all of this research I'm about to reference is included there. Now, the first and most heavily weighted method for determining cap rates is comparable sales. In 2023, there was one comparable multifamily sale, what is now known as the Jasper Columbia Pike. This analysis is provided beginning on page 38 of the board book. The Jasper was assessed in 2023 at just under $118 million. It then sold in July of 2023 for $105 million. For 2024, the property is assessed at just over $118 million, despite that 2023 sale price of $105 million. Looking at this sale, we can determine the sale cap rate using Arlington County's cap rate methodology, which is outlined on page 4 of the county's 2024 guidebook. The county's guidebook on page 4 states that the indicated base capitalization rates are determined for each market sale by dividing the net operating income less real estate taxes by the sales price. For the Jasper, the sale cap rate, applying the 2022 NOI less real estate taxes to the sale price, again, in accordance with the county's methodology, we see that the sale cap rate was 6.043%. From there, we take that and we compare what the sale cap rate, 6.043%, we compare it to what the county used for the assessment for this same property in 2024. This is how we check the guidelines. The county used a cap rate of only 5.84%. This means that the county's guideline cap rate is over 20 basis points lower than the actual fair market sale cap rate for the Jasper. This tells us that the county's 2023 cap rates were understating the market by 30 basis points, and the 2024 cap rates are again understating the market by 20 basis points. This is the adjustment we have applied to the subject property, a 30 basis point increase from the 2023 cap rates. Subsequent sales in 2024, one of which the county was specifically called and told of as it was pending in 2023, also support a higher cap rate than what the county has imputed. Now, this sale that was pending in 2023 that the county was notified about, this was the Crescent Falls Church, which sold at a 6.53% cap rate. That same property for the 2024 assessment, the guidelines assess it at a 5.5% cap rate. This, of course, is a 103 basis point difference between the county guideline cap rates and the actual sale cap rate that the county knew about. The Crescent sold for $100 million, but was assessed at $118 million. So the best method for determining cap rates tells us cap rates have increased at a minimum 30 basis points from 2023. Now let's look to the other methods to see if this result is supported. Well, band of investment analysis found on page 43 of the board book shows us that cap rates have increased even further. Comparing the multifamily market as of January 1, 2024 to the market pre-pandemic, we see from band of investment analysis that cap rates have increased over 60 basis points. So next to surveys, what do the surveys show? Again, an even greater increase. Several surveys were provided in the board book beginning on page 44. Here, we see a survey of local DC area investors state that cap rates for multifamily properties have increased 85 basis points from the end of 2022 to the end of 2023. Next, institutional investors surveyed by PwC state cap rates have increased 45 basis points from 1 year prior. So we have three methods of determining cap rates that all state cap rates have increased more than the county's 10 basis point year-over-year adjustment. Sale comps show a minimum of 30 basis point increases from the 2023 rates. Band of investment analysis shows a 63 basis point increase, and surveys show between 45 and 85 basis points increase. So generally accepted appraisal practice tells us to look at sales comps, to do the band of investment analysis, and to consider surveys when determining cap rates. All of these, again, support at a minimum a 30 basis point increase from the 2023 rates. So that begs the question, where did the 10 basis point increase come from? Where was the support for this? Well, first we looked at the commercial guidebook, which states that PwC and RERC surveys were used to determine cap rates. These two surveys, PwC shows from Q3 22 to Q3 23, a 33 basis point increase. RERC shows a 60 basis point increase in Q3 2023 from 1 year prior. That's all the support the guidebook states. So then we went further. We requested from the county what support they had for the 10 basis point increase. We were provided the same two surveys, again, a 33 basis point increase and a 60 basis point increase. All the evidence points to a minimum of a 30 basis point increase, which is what we've applied to this property. And we respectfully request that the board consider that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Shuttlesworth for the county, please.
Yes, hello everyone again. Mr. Harmon already provided pretty good description of the property. I will just add that the subject property is located at the same block as the Fashion Center Mall and also within 1 block from the closest metro station. We have analyzed the I&E surveys for the past 4 years. The property was struggling in 2021. As we can see, the gross potential income declined by 2.75%. The vacancies and collections increased from 7.59% to 9.45%. But we start seeing an increase in the gross potential income in 2022, an increase of 7.5%. The vacancy and collections went down to 6.16%. And the 2022 NOI increased by over 11%. In 2023, the property continued to grow the income. The gross potential rent increased by 5.32%, 5.39% as compared to the 2021 figure. Now let's look at the column D. Our NOI used in 2024 analysis was below the NOI reported by the appellants in 2023. This was one of those cases to manually adjust our cap rate due to RIA's limited rounding capability. As you can see in column D, our cap rate was 5.39%. However, after adding the national lending bid of 0.043, the cap rate should be 5.393%. RIA's goes only up to 2 decimal points. We still did add our test column D, even though our NOI used in 2024 analysis was below the NOI reported in 2023. We only added this test column D to illustrate to the board that our proposed revised value in column G resulted from RIA's rounding limitation and manually overriding the cap rate from 5.39% to 5.393%. And our test column F was conservative. We still applied NOI that was below the NOI reported by the appellants in 2023. Despite the fact that for the past 2 years, the property has demonstrated increasing rent potential, the appellants assumed in their pro forma that the income and expenses remain the same as compared to the prior year. That's it. Thank you.
You're muted, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you. And questions from the board now. I said I would go ahead and start. My question for Ms. Shuttlesworth, I don't think anybody's in disagreement that the NOI is in line with what's been reported and the historical performance. The appellant brings up the question of the justification of just the 10 basis point change in the cap rate versus his proposed 30. So could you speak to that?
Yes, so as Mr. Harman mentioned, we had only one multifamily sale that occurred in 2023. Actually, we have a appeal case file for this property, so we will be discussing this property during the hearing. Just increasing cap rates based on one sale just wasn't prudent at this time. And we did increase the cap rate by only 10 basis points to acknowledge. We do acknowledge that the market conditions have changed. It is more difficult to obtain financing in the multifamily market, not just multifamily market. And we wanted to acknowledge that. Who knows, maybe we'll have another sale or more information to support higher cap rate increase next year. But just at this time, we didn't have enough information to increase it more than 10 basis points.
Madam Chairwoman, may we add to that?
Okay, Mr. Chicas.
Just wanted to note, and as Ms. Shuttleworth did speak to, there's only one sale, verified sale in the year of 2023 with which that we're speaking about, and that is the Jasper. Any sales that occur in 2024 will, of course, be analyzed this year. We did note and speak with the owner, the previous owner who sold the Jasper, and he himself noted that the quote-unquote sellers sold the asset as they're reallocating capital to shrink their mid-Atlantic portfolio with greater emphasis on properties in the Carolinas and Texas. So clearly a motivated seller, and they didn't deny that. So again, as Annetta pointed out, one sale does not a cap rate make. In regards to some of the surveys that were mentioned, we point out to that we're comfortably within that range that they provide, I believe, in all the surveys that were noted. So without asking questions of institutional investors that are their own clients, we wouldn't know what response they would get. But we do believe that based on the national information we have, RERC, PwC, and the one sale that we had, that 10 basis points increase was prudent. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Maskin.
Just on that, I'll start with Chris Chicas, but maybe Jordan needs to respond to it as well. But in the appellant's presentation, it talked about surveys of between 33 and 60 basis point increase, according to surveys, opinions, projections. But you just said, Chris, that your 10 basis points fell within the surveys. Are they different surveys, or how does that happen? 10
No,
doesn't.
generally speaking,
60.
exactly. Generally speaking, all of these give a range that is a comfortable area within. And so what we do is we apply to that range. What we were mentioning is that we believe that the appellants are using institutional investors, that they're actually asking their own clients. In other words, those that they're already engaged with, what they feel about the general market. When we're referencing our national publications, RERC and PwC. I believe they used the same tactic last year in which they asked their clients.
Okay, is that right, Mr. Harmon? Thank you.
That is absolutely incorrect. So what we did to analyze the Jasper was we took the actual 2022 NOI that was provided by the county to us. We took that to get the sale cap rate. That sale, the seller was Avalon Bay Communities, one of the largest multifamily owners in the country, a sophisticated owner who's not going to turn tail and run. So it was a good sale. It was purchased by Penzance, another large operator in the market. So we used the 2022 NOI provided by the county. We didn't even ask the owner, the buyer, what cap rate they used. We looked at the data. We applied the county's methodology to the county's data to get that cap rate. Now, as to the surveys, Mr. Chikas references a range. The county's cap rates are below the ranges cited by both PwC and RERC. The county's lowest cap rate for new properties is 4.22%. That is saying that Arlington County has better multifamily properties than anywhere in the Mid-Atlantic region, better than DC even. Traditionally, DC has lower cap rates on multifamily sales from what we've seen in the data. So they're not within the range. They're below the range. The increase year over year is below what the surveys have said. And that sale cap rate, we applied the county's methodology to the county's data to get that. So it was not a matter of us asking, that's quite presumptive. We used the county's data and we provided this in the appeal as well.
No, to be clear, sir, that
Okay,
we're
I'm sorry,
not.
can I just ask Mr. Chikas, can you turn your volume up because you're very low?
Yes. Yeah, just to be clear, we were initiating two different things. We don't deny that how they came up to their value of the Jasper. We would note, of course, if he's using a 2022 NOI for 2023 sale, he'd be off by a bit. He'd want to use the 2023 NOI, which is what they purchased. In regards to the surveys, what we're talking about is the surveys that Wilkes Artist requests of their clientele, asking them the state of the market. And we're not referencing RERC, we're not referencing PwC, and we're not referencing the one Jasper sale.
Mr. Chikas, I'm just going to jump in here and say none of the information that we've referenced relies on any survey of our clients. Everything that we've referenced is based upon the surveys you reference, or the county references in their package, and based upon the county's stated methodology in its guidelines. And that is how Mr. Harmon determined the cap rate for the Jasper sale.
I believe he mentioned a survey he took of some clientele.
No,
Okay.
That's incorrect.
All right. Other questions from board members? No. All right, Ms. Shuttlesworth, if you take a minute to wrap up, please.
Okay, so again, we're looking at a property who's been showing consistent rent growth, and 2023 INE showed over 3% increase. And our NOI used in our analysis is below the NOI reported for 2023. And we asked the board to confirm the 2024 assessment at $140,827,900. Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Harmon, if you take a minute to wrap up, sir.
Yes, thank you. So just to clarify, we did apply the county's methodology that's found on page 4 of the guidelines. We applied that to a T to determine the sale cap rate on the Jasper Columbia Pike. That shows that the county's cap rates are off by 20 basis points at a minimum. That's exactly how the 2024 assessment for that property that sold for $105 million The assessment came in at $118 million. The guidelines did not consider that sale. And then looking at the secondary support for cap rate surveys, we looked at the surveys that the county provided in response to our request. They are below the range of the lowest survey. They're below the PwC survey. It's just not, there's not any support that we've been provided for a 10 basis point increase. The sale and surveys do support a 30 basis point increase. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Okay, it's just among the board members. Where's everybody in this? Mr. Lawson.
Yes, ma'am. I'll go ahead and start the discussion, I guess. We are doing a refinancing right now of a residential apartment project that has been in existence for many, many years. And the maximum that they can borrow is 50% of value of the property. And so an appraisal is being done right now of the property, and then they'll get the loan of 50% of it. And what I did in preparation the last few days, I've called several investors, people that invest in real estate projects. And in talking to them, what I got back is that they believe the appropriate cap rate is in between the two. So the consensus that I got from the investors that I worked with or talked to is that they thought the appropriate cap rate for a well-established property near a metro, in their opinion, was at 5.5. So I'll share that. And I did the math, assuming that anyone on the committee agrees. I came out with 138,982,700, and I'll see if anyone agrees with what I just shared.
So just as a question, Mr. Lawson, so that puts it lower than the 139 million it was last year.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, other comments? Mr. Metzger?
Just very quickly, I for high-end multifamily residential buildings to have it be flat, given the amount of similar product, maybe quite not as high-end, but multifamily in Arlington, accessible to some transportation, seems believable to me. I think that we're getting down to rounding figures in this product. Later on this year, that may not be the case, but I certainly agree that one sale can't help. The surveys help a lot to give us guidance, but they're of course not Arlington specific or even DC Arlington specific, the original 100 square miles. So to me, this is too close to call, and I'm therefore am finding the county's representation to be realistic and appropriate.
Okay, other folks? Mr. Mendez?
I agree that one sale is really not a ton of data. And to your point, Mayor, I don't think it went down personally. So I would probably side to go with the county's reduced number at 140 million and change.
Okay. Mr. Yates or Mr. Penaranda? Mr. Penaranda?
Yeah, I was doing the same as Mr. Lawson. I was looking at maybe, because I don't have any reason not to believe all the information that Mr. Harmer, presented, but I think it is very close. We've seen changes on other numbers that are much more significant. And on Mr. Lawson's number, I think if we were to make any change on on the numbers based on the cap rate only, I would use the revised, column that I think it would bring it up pretty much very close to what it is right now. So I'm okay with the county's assessment for this year.
All right, Mr. Yates?
I'm okay with the county's assessment, and I was looking more at the history of the assessment on the property, and the performance of it. I don't see that it's that far off. I think the county, it is, their number's good. It seems to be.
Okay, Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, and again, I'm not gonna beat this horse because I can see how this is gonna go, but what is offsetting the higher occupancy and higher rents is that these owners are being required to invest more, come up with more gimmies for the tenants. And the other thing that's impacting what's going on out there is the magnitude of personal investment that has to be made, and the lenders, the requirements that this is a term sheet that we're negotiating right now with the lender, and the requirements are just staggering of what this owner has to provide in order to get this loan. And what they've decided to do is they're getting this loan for 5 years, and they're going to hope like heck that when before this comes due, things improve. But they're having to do a total analysis of the property by an architect, by an engineer, soil studies, environmental studies. And so I think that's why I think that a change to the cap rate is appropriate. So I just wanted to share that for what it's worth, and I'll be quiet at this point. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Matzkin?
Very quickly, once again, Barnes has provided us with real-time, realistic input that should factor into our decisions. But I'm thinking, based on what he said, that these ought to be quality inputs for the next year's cap rate assessment for multifamily and maybe other kinds of properties as well, and not this year's. That's it.
Okay. All right, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll go ahead and move that we confirm the assessment at 140,827,900.
Wait, I think most of the other, hold on, before we have a second. I think that most of the folks are working on the proposed. Correct? You want to amend your motion? Or withdraw it?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, isn't that the correct number, 827?
I'm sorry?
No, you're right. You're right.
I mean, it's just a slight difference, but it is, reduced.
I'll go ahead and move that it's a reduction then to the proposed amount by the county to 140,749,600.
Okay. A motion by Mr. Penaranda, a second by Mr. Matzkin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, it is 5-1 without Mr. Lawson. The county's reduced number of 140,749,600 has been confirmed.
Thank you.
Okay, we now have Mr. Radin and Mr. Chicas on.
Yes, ma'am.
I know we saw Mr. Radin earlier.
Good morning, ma'am.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, I've also got Tom Schultz. He is alongside me with the owner of this property, who would also like to speak.
Okay, can you turn your camera on, Mr. Radin? Okay, there we go.
Morning.
Okay, the next case on the agenda is RPC for Economic Unit 1900304A at 3201 10th Street North. So I'm not sure who's going to start, but Mr. Rader,
Yeah.
you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about the property.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much. So this is a little bit of a unique situation. So we are obviously attempting to come to the fair market value of this property. This property is currently in the last stages of a bona fide market transaction. And it's transpiring as we speak. It's been listed for sale for some time since before the new year. The parties have finally come down to the last stages where they're putting together the final, final offers and such. And because of that, we would like to see if it would be possible. And we spoke with the county about this, and they don't object, to see what the final, so that we could report the fair market value in this bona fide sale to you and be able to speak completely and intelligently about the final sale. And we would like to see if it would be possible to postpone our discussion today on this property till later, the end of this month or the beginning of July, so that we can actually have the final data. And so that's essentially where we are at this point, and we would like the board's indulgence in this, in that we are trying to get the best indication of the fair market value. And since the sale is immediately forthcoming, we would like to be able to tell you exactly what's happened with this sale. So would the board consider postponing or hearing from us a little bit later this summer, so that we can give you the final sale price and say that was actually the final sale price? Could we, well, we're requesting the board consider that at this point.
Okay, that's not how we operate, but we'll go ahead and hear from the county and see what the county has to say about this, and
Okay.
and move to some discussion. So Mr. Chikas, then, for the county.
Yes, Madam Chairwoman. As Mr. Radin expressed, essentially we met on this last week. We were informed by Mr. Schultz, the owner, that they had letters of intent. We tried to explain as politely as possible that, without a recorded sale, some sort of recordation and land records that showed a transaction had taken place, we really couldn't take letters of intent into account. He made mention that he believed that this was something that was going to occur this week, the week that we're in, as far as moving forward with that. I'd reword how Mr. Radin presented, is that what we said is we would want to hear from the board members that as of the date it was already scheduled, that it is now in your purview as far as making changes or hearing it at a later date. We just didn't want them to feel that it was a gotcha tactic, that if they were literally selling it this week, that we were going to ask to close it regardless of that transaction. That being said, we know that the schedule can be taught as we go throughout the year, so we really wanted to leave it in your hands. Obviously, we, as of today's hearing, we do believe that the fair market value is represented by the approved site plans, valued by the land rates we just spoke of an hour or so ago. We have plenty of support to indicate that those values are in place and are prudent. But in regards to how you want to handle it going forward, we want to leave it to you.
All right, thank you. Questions from board members? Mr. Yates.
I'm sorry about that. To the county, if this sale would go forward, how much time do you need to really review what the terms of that sale were?
Well, so to be clear, Mr. Yates, we would still believe that our value is accurate.
Okay.
The sale would occur in 2024. We just didn't want it to feel as though that if something occurred that week you heard it, that it felt as if this was going beyond your back. So we just wanted all the cards on the table. If this in fact is a good faith transaction that's going to occur this week, that may in fact present a different argument for them as far as fair market value. the county still holds that as January 1st. Since there was no transaction in place, our values are accurate and correct.
And it would go toward next year or something like of that nature.
Exactly. We would use that sale. It's just the same way we do all others.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Metzger.
For the appellant, what do you base your proposed value that's presented to us in the department's write-up? It's about
Yes.
1/4 less than what the department assesses.
Previously, the owner of this property, Mr. Schultz below, he received two fair market value offers to purchase this property, to purchase this future development. Now, both of those offers were for the apartment portion only. So, we presented that information to you, but the new offer includes both the hotel and the apartment portion, and we believe represents the actual fair market value of the subject property. So the current offer is $27 million.
Okay, Mr. Yates?
Was that sale offer in any way linked to the assessment or contingent or anything?
No. Ms. Tom, did you want to elaborate?
Thank you for your time, folks. And hello to Ken Barnes. We began, we had a joint venture development partner on this project as we were taking it through the 4.1, and which was approved, I believe, on September 23rd. And that joint venture partner elected to move on from this project because of economic conditions not making the project feasible. So we began in late September, early October, talking to other major players around the DC area. As some of you know, I've been doing this in Arlington County since the 1970s and know the market extremely well. And we went to major players, all whom you folks I'm sure would know, and generated about 5 offers. We currently have 3 players interested. We've narrowed it down to 1, and we are obliged to not disclose the player, but I'm quite confident all of you know who it is. And this is where the market is right now. There is very little, if any, money available for new projects of this sort, and hard costs and soft costs are still beyond reach for new development, and so we are experiencing that in the offers that we're getting. They are so I'll just leave it at that. The market is
Okay.
very, you know.
All right. Other questions? No? Then Mr. Chikas, if you take a minute to wrap up, please.
Yes, ma'am. Again, as we've shown throughout the years, we have sales data supports the number of units for both the apartments that were approved, the value per unit, and the hotel. This is a large project, and we should speak, if we're only talking about the one, just to be clear that this conversation may be enveloping both what you're hearing now and the next project. So to be clear, if we're only speaking of the first project, again, it's large. It's 241 multifamily units, 3,800 square feet of retail. We believe we have plenty of support to defend the per unit value based upon transactions that have occurred, as well as its location. So we do believe that the board, if hearing this today, should uphold the value of $20,889,800. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Radin, if you take a minute to wrap up, sir.
Yes, well, again, we're not actually requesting that we discuss, the value exactly today. We still want to see if there might be an opportunity to present this information to you later so that we can point to more conclusive evidence that the market value is closer to, you know, the taxpayer's request. And, you know, the fact that the current market value, it's not going to get above this offer. And this is the final offer. This project is selling for $27 million. And so we feel that above all else, regardless of the date, points to the fact that the fair market value of this property is what it is based on the market valuation. But again, we would like to come and talk a little bit more in depth about the offer and the impending sale, regardless of the time period, so that we could have a little bit more to explain and reveal about the actual sale. But that being as it is, again, the fair market value is a reflection of these offers that we've discussed. And thank you very much. Again, $27 million will be the sale price of the subject. Thank you.
I'd also like
Okay,
to add,
thank
if I could,
Okay, thank you. Now it's just among the board members. You know, I'll start. I mean, this is a tough one, but it's really kind of cut and dry. I mean, there's a site plan on it. It's assessed as of January 1st, not of July 1st. I think if there is a sale, which it sounds like there is going to be a sale, the details of that sale will come out next year. Whether or not it will affect a site plan value, you know, that remains to be seen. But I mean, as far as, you know, this property as is and equalize with other properties that have site plans on them, you know, we don't wait 6 months to see what happens. You know, we would never get any properties assessed and or through the board. So, you know, I don't know where everybody else is on this, but I think Mr. Cheek's point that as of January 1st, the value was the value on the site plan, and we can discuss the rest of it when it happens, if it happens. So, Mr. Penaranda, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Mary. I think this is, you know, there's no way that I would suggest that we postpone for specifically for the reason of just of a sale of a proposed sale. Even if it closed today, I don't think we would consider that for this year. You know, this assessment is being done like any other site plan, and I think it's done properly. And you know, I think there's no need to make any change to the assessment the way it is.
Mr. Mendez?
Oh, I'm just shaking my head in agreement with both, what both you
okay.
guys are saying.
Okay, Mr. Lawson, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I guess, again, I'll be the lone voice. You know, in the commercial marketplace, it's not like a single family house, and you can't just, you know, well, I'm going to sell it, and then, you know, and then the next month it gets sold. It takes months and months in order to sell a property like this. Same thing happened right across the street to the Verizon, Wells Fargo, Jag has filed a 4.1, and that has been on hold for 9 months, while Jag has regrouped, found a new investor. I think they're still searching, and they want to go back with the staff and try to narrow down some of these financial commitments that are in the site plan. So I think that a sale now, a contract that's entered into now, is reflective of where it was in January 1, because it takes this long in order to make a sale happen. And they lost their original investor last year. And so that impacts the value of last year. And during the briefing, we were questioning why the county hasn't recognized that if the final product has gone down in value, well, so has the raw product. So I think we should continue this, but I think I'll probably be the only one voting that way.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, I think everybody on the board certainly understands there's a difference between a residential sale and a commercial sale. And they do take time. I mean, but that's also why the county has to choose a date of value. and it's July or January 1st. I mean, and that would be reflective of any commercial property last year that was trying to sell. And if it rolls over into this year, I mean, that's just, how, the ball bounces, if you will. They've got to set some date. They can't be floating. Again, we would never be able to assess any property. And we're trying to do this on a basis of equalization. In addition to the fact that the site plan holds some weight here from a standpoint of equalizing with other properties that have site plans. I'm not disagreeing with you that the value may be less than the site plan, but from a standpoint of equalization, that's how we view site plans. So, Mr. Metzgen, you look like you had your hand up. No? Where are you on this?
Well, my question about if the cap rate increased, well, of course, I was looking more at office product than multifamily for sure. But having across the board, two values of FAR foot for anything big commercial, two values meaning metro accessible or not, for everything makes me uncomfortable, but I certainly can't come up with a survey or an analysis of some sort that's going to disprove that, other than my original question: if cap rates go up, how come the FAR values per square foot don't go down to reflect it? I certainly agree with you that January 1st is January 1st, and there's always lags, and residential purchasers and owners also disagree with the lag, but there's no other way to approach this, the lag between sales and dates of value and whatnot. It's universal. So given that I don't have in-depth analysis, I have to go with what the county came up with. Again, I'll say this, like I repeat what I said on the last appellant. I'm finding that based on what we've seen so far, that, and just driving around the county, that multifamily product is in reasonably, relative to office product, in good shape. So I'm not going to quibble with FAR foot vis-a-vis cap rate so much in this kind of product. That's more than I needed to say. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, if I can I'll make one more point and then I'll be quiet. The county used, other than sales that, had something recorded in the land records, and they looked at, other sources of information other than just a recorded sale. And that's kind of my point, that while we may not have the sale, we know what's going on. And I think that a consummated sale of this property would give us an indication of what the value was back on January 1, because I don't think we have to rely only on sales that have been reported amongst the land records. With that, I'll be quiet.
Okay, Mr. Yates?
Barnes, I understand where you're coming from. I agree with that. However, I think if we waited till mid-July, we'd be having the same discussion about the timing and what went into that, and we'd be back to this goes into next year.
It's just among board members. Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion? Mr. Metzger?
I move that we accept the county's 2024 assessment of case number 331 at a total of $20,889,800.
A second.
Okay, do I have a second? Mr. Penron is a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's 5-1 without Mr. Lawson. The county is confirmed at $20,889,800. Okay, the next case on the agenda is also Economic Unit 1900308A at 3217 10th Street North. Mr. Radin, you can start and tell us about this.
Sure. I'm going to defer to Tom. I know, Tom, you had some thoughts on the value. Now we're talking about the other portion. Now, again, this is for the board members included in the upcoming offer of 27 million. But I know, Tom, you had some thoughts on that you wanted to express in the last go round. So I'll let you go ahead and speak more about that.
Well, I think the valuation prior to January 1st perhaps is helpful here. The valuation under the partnership agreement with the joint venture investor partner that we had valued the entire project at $39 million. And that investor determined that it was not worth $39 million given the current market, and that is both for the multifamily component and for the hospitality component. So that valuation, we have documentation showing that was the valuation as of 2023. And I think it's obvious today that that valuation didn't hold up then, and it's not even close to fair market value today.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chikas for the county.
Yes, ma'am. So very much in line with the last project. In fact, this project and the last project shared the same block. I just did the math. It's about a 1/10 of a mile from Clarendon Metro, just shy of a 1/2 a mile from Virginia Square Metro. You know, it went through, again, at least 3 different processes: the Long Range Review Committee, Site Plan Review Committee, voted by the county board. We do believe that based on equity, based on other plans that we've seen, again, we have support for both the hotel value per unit, per key. We have support for the per unit value for the apartments, and of course the retail on site. We do ask that the board confirm this project much like the last. We have the value of $37,441,900. We ask that be confirmed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board members? Mr. Lawson.
Yeah, what is it? Is this property still zone C3?
Tom, I'm going to defer to you on that. Do you have the answer to that?
It's let's see, what are we doing? I have to. It is Barnes, but we under the master plan, what we did was revised. It was a multi-step process. The master plan did not permit hospitality as a by right use. So part of the reason that this project took so long getting through the county, besides COVID and various other things, was the process of revising the Clarendon sector plan to allow for hospitality as a permitted use.
But it is C3, so you could kill the site plan.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question.
And I could also add that the market value determined under the partnership that dissolved was $39 million. We continue to have interim uses on the site, and under the current assessed value, we don't even generate enough money to pay our taxes under the current assessed value.
Okay. Other questions? No, Mr. Chikas, any final comments in a minute, please?
No, ma'am. Again, was vetted thoroughly. Multiple different agencies throughout the county. Was voted unanimously for approval by the county board. We do believe that much like the last case, this property should be upheld and confirmed at a value of $37,441,900. Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Radin, if you'd wrap up in a minute, please.
Yes. So thank you again. I think we've heard, a bit about what the actual market will bring for this property, and we found that to be 27 million. The sale has been in the process. since before the new year started. It's, you know, a lengthy process, as we've heard. Again, you know, several qualified offers, one to be accepted at 27 million for this site. The amount of the value that we have appealed today, I think, is slightly different than the value that Chris mentioned. So I'm not 100% sure. I had a different value, a final value here of 29,746,800 for the parcels in question. So those were the values, I believe, of the submitted appeal, but there may be some other parcels that Chris mentioned that are part of this development that were not listed with the petitioner. So other than that, again, you know, I think the Virginia courts have said we're looking for the fair market value, and all other aspects, including uniformity and equality, doesn't mean that the assessment should be in excess of fair market value. And I think the best indication of fair market value would be the impending sale. And the preference of uniformity in assessments has been expressed, must stop short of an assessment greater than fair market value. And that's from the court case Smith versus County of Fairfax, that's cited in the BOE manual. So again, you know, uniformity cannot come in at greater than fair market value. And so here we have a case where the fair market value is a good deal less than the values put forward by the county in the efforts of uniformity. And the courts have held that fair market value must trump that. So thank you again. We have an offer at 27 million for this entire project. Tom, did you have anything else?
No, I think we've, again, the value before the downturn was 39 million. The downturn is obvious to anybody that's paying attention, and I'm sure all the board members are. And we're 27 million is what the market has been telling us, and so it is what it is.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's just among the board members. Where's everybody on this? Mr. Matzkin.
Last year, concerning commercial properties, we had a lot of input from appellants concerning the primacy of fair market value over the need for uniformity and equalization. And we had a lot of that, a lot of discussion. And I came away and based on law and precedent, and I'm now echoing, of course, what the appellant just final point was. And I took that very seriously, and I brought it into this year to be very serious. I don't, however, and I believe it. And when I say seriously, I mean, I think that's correct based on everything we heard last year and probably again this year. But I don't believe that one sale 6 months after the assessment period is fair market value. We have to, as we've already discussed in the last case. So but I'm confident that this will show up next year if the assessed value of these two properties don't reflect the fair market value to a large but not exclusive extent of these two sales that are about to occur, I trust, this year. The counties, having said that, the county's a big disadvantage because how few sales occur of similar properties throughout a year. And but still, therefore, they're going to have to temper, in my humble judgment, 1 or 2 sales and come up with a realistic figure. But if they did that, it couldn't be 6 months after the assessment date. It's just not realistic at all to me.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Veneranda.
Yeah, I agree with everything Ken just mentioned. And again, you know, I think we are looking at something that even if there were more offers or even a pending contract, you know, that like Mr. Lawson said, residential is not the same as commercial, and we all know that. Commercial contracts, they're gonna have more specific conditions that need to be met. That's why it takes a long time sometimes to go through. And just because there's a contract or a letter of intent, to me, it doesn't really affect my opinion on where we put the assessments at, you know. And I think for the purposes of, like you mentioned, equalization of all properties that have a site plan approved, you know, we have to go with what the county has right now.
Right, I agree with both of you. In addition, the appellant's comment about having a different number and not knowing if other parcels are in there. I mean, right on page 1 of the appeal, I mean, is the breakdown of how it's been assessed, you know, for several years, where the number comes from. So I'm confused over his confusion on that. But, you know, I agree with what both of you are saying. I think we're looking at a site plan as of January 1st and a sale that may or may not happen down the road. I mean, is, you know, I just don't feel that, you know, we can take that into account at this point.
Good.
All right. No further discussion then? All right, then I will move to confirm the county at 37,441,900. Do I have a second? Mr. Mendez, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 5-1 without Mr. Lawson. The county is confirmed at 37,441,900. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, board members. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Sean.
All right.
Okay, that completes the agenda. Does anybody have any other business? No? Then we will stand adjourned at 10:27, reconvene tomorrow morning, Wednesday, June 12th at 9 a.m. And it is in person for board members. So we'll be back in the Cherry Room. Thank you.
Sounds good. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.